now we have an incredible panel of experts, and I would like to discuss about all of this with Luis. Please come with me, Helena, and Eva, please. Okay, so thank you so much for coming and for being part of this. Perhaps we can have the discussion both in English and Spanish, because all of them speak English and Spanish, incredible. So first of all, I would like you introduce yourself and why you are here.
Should I start? First, congratulations. Since we met from the first moment, we perfectly aligned in the mission, and I'm sure you're going to come across as a very successful project with Helena and the team. My name is Adelina Toader. I'm an ex-banker by profession. I spent almost 2 decades in structured commodity finance, 6 years in carbon. Last year, I launched my own capital structuring investment platform in carbon, nature, and biodiversity. And together with NatureBrain and Helena, we're trying to bring, next to the incredible expertise that you brought here today, also financial structures to bring the investment cases to the broader capital markets. So that's our mission here today. We're very excited to have this conversation.
Luis?
My name is Luis Seco. I was born in Spain, but that's about all I can say about my command of the Spanish language. I am a professor at the University of Toronto. I'm the chair of the Center for Sustainable Development at the Fields Institute. Mathematics, there's no Nobel Prize, there's the Fields Medal. That's in Toronto. I have been a professor, but I've also been an entrepreneur. I've created maybe around 10 companies in my life. My first one was an investment company. Invested about, just to give you an idea, about $3 billion over 20 years. So I know about money. I know about making money and losing money. I know about creating ideas, sharing ideas. But I like to, at the end of the day, I like to solve problems. I like to tackle a difficult task, solve it, understanding that the solution is not to write a paper like many of my colleagues, academic colleagues might think. You don't solve anything by writing a paper. You need to actually take it to market and have impact. And that's why I'm here.
Eva, puedes hablar en español.
Sí, muchas gracias. Disculpar porque mi inglés no es nativo, entonces para no quedar de rubia tonta, que lo ejerzo bastante, hablar en español, pero os comprendo perfectamente. Gracias. Sobre todo gracias a NatureBrain, sobre todo a Miguel Ángel, que es el que más conozco. Y bueno, me presento un poco, pero vengo en representación en este momento como presidenta de una asociación que se llama CSN, Cooperación Estratégica de Seguridad Nacional, dependiente del Ministerio del Interior, con acuerdos con el Ministerio de Defensa, de ámbito nacional e internacional, con temas de la OTAN, que sé que nos encantará. Y NatureBrain es una de las empresas asociadas que tenemos la suerte de tener en CSN. Entonces, quiero dar un poco, bueno, soy licenciada, doctorada, esas cosas. Temas de las carreras, pues es lo que todos tenemos que tener, pero en realidad, por lo que estoy aquí, me gustaría transmitir es una responsabilidad, porque la seguridad nacional somos todos, la seguridad nacional no es solo defensa, sino también vosotros sois seguridad nacional y los bienes y todos los activos naturales son seguridad nacional.
Gracias, Eva. So now I would like to ask you a specific question, because I tried to explain the main reason of why NatureBrain was born, why I think that we need in the market a tool like Helena AI. And here you represent 3 different key sectors, in our opinion: investors and finance market, investment analysis from the academia, artificial intelligence and mathematics, and security. Because a very key part of nature is national security. And in Spain, we know very well what that means because we need to fight every summer against fires. Last year we had the problem with the Dana. So nature and analyzing nature and predict nature is a security matter for sure. So I'm starting with you as the part of the family of NatureBrain. Please let us know your thoughts about why do you think that nature is predictable with mathematics and artificial intelligence?
Pythagoras, he said 2,500 years ago that nature is written in the language of numbers. And I like to, for the people who don't believe this, I have one of my favorite stories about this is how he discovered harmony by measuring the lengths of rods that were being hit in the forge. So we've known that for a long time. Mathematics has always been there to help us understand our environment with a mental creation that we did. So to me, there's no question that mathematics is the main tool that we have at our disposal to do that. What has changed in the last few years, is that mathematics has given rise to techniques that are finally implementable. Pythagoras would be amazed at what we can do. Imagine, you know how Pythagoras did arithmetic? They didn't have Roman numerals. So to prove that the numbers, 17 is a prime number is a major effort because multiplication was so hard. Right? So when we develop the ability to multiply and add as you learn as children, they didn't have that. It was very hard. Now we have computers. You give them terabytes of data and within a few seconds, minutes, they give you wonderful discoveries that they can do. This gives us tremendous power. So for me, the reason we're here is we've become very powerful because of that. Powerful, and we don't know the limit of how big this can be. And I suspect today we're going to realize that a lot of the limits of how powerful we thought we were will be broken. We will see.
Wow. Thank you, Luis.
I have to say one thing. Eva, never say that you don't speak English. You speak English with a Toronto accent. Okay? The official language, the official language of Toronto is bad English. Okay? And I speak it perfectly.
Thank you so much, Luis. So now, Adelina, in Capness, you are managing investments from investors, institutional investors, family offices. You have to explain them why nature is profitable, why nature is predictable. In your opinion, how important is having real data, real predictive analysis for having nature as a bankable asset?
Of course, very important. However, even in, there are different layers to this, right? So I think one of the stepping stones and one of the missions we try to set through at Capnest is also the educational part, as I call it, carbon literacy, because we really don't speak the same language. So before the data, there needs to be an alignment in the vocabulary of what we are trying to define here. What is nature as an asset class? Can we align the understanding of an asset to what we know in the capital markets? And this conversation is very different if you speak to private capital, if you speak to institutional investors, but it drills down to the same thing. Give us a tool, an asset, a measurement that we all already understand. You are not going to reinvent the wheel, or if you try to do that, then that's a failed case. So it's about building this kind of educational bridges, bringing the right definition of the asset and the tools to the market. And of course, you need track record. You need to have the right data. But in my opinion, that has to support a construct that, again, is already there, but it doesn't speak the same language. And very, very important, trust. And I'll come back to this in our conversation, because you can have all the data in the world, but if you do not have trust in the how the data is sourced, in the track record of the counterparties, and how you're actually doing the modeling, which is why Helena is so wonderful and what you guys are doing is very important. And this is also one of the reasons why many of the corporates do not integrate these numbers in their financial projections, because they do not rely on this tooling, right? So trust is extremely important even before you get to the basic variables. Yeah, so we need to get there, but also don't forget the context of the education and building properly the track record, which may take time, depending on the investor profile, may take a moment, and we have to be cognizant of that.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. So you are in agreement with me when I say that when Exxon is not putting numbers in the balance sheet, it's just because they don't rely and they don't have good tools for doing those predictions, right?
Highly probable, yes, but excluding the name that you mentioned from the conversation, we have to realize that until the markets and supply chains do not understand that there is an economical cost to this, they will not act. So we can obviously, because we're going to continue to swim in this kind of feel-good economics, you're doing the right thing. But if you're not moving the conversation from feel-good economics to this is a yielding business case, you are not going to get there. And that can come in two ways. Either you understand that this is a cost through regulation or whatever supply chain, there are many ways in which this cost will come across, or you can actually invest with the help of good tooling in projects which are profitable, because we already all know that there are good cases out there of different investments that are profitable, but these don't really come across because there are not many, and we need to build those paths. So it's a bit more nuanced answer, but yeah, let's not be romantic about it. There has to be an economical dimension to it.
Yeah, absolutely right. Eva, me gustaría que nos explicaras, para gente que no es experta en defensa, por qué la naturaleza es importantísima para la seguridad nacional de un país. Let me translate into English for the people who is in the webinar. I would like you to explain us, for people who is not expert, like us in security, why do you think that security and nature is connected for a government, for example?
Cuando hablamos de seguridad nacional y de defensa, uno siempre ve un escenario bélico, pero defensa es defenderse también, o defender tus recursos, defender la información, defender a las personas. Entonces, partiendo de esa base, eso para mí es defensa. Pero para todos hablamos ahora de recursos naturales. Ha cambiado el escenario geopolítico y geoestratégico. Ahora una guerra no solo es en combate cuerpo a cuerpo con carros de combate. Las amenazas y el escenario geopolítico y geoestratégico ha hecho que la ciberseguridad y el robo de datos o de recursos naturales sean el punto económico y de fricción en el mundo. Entonces, los recursos naturales son muy importantes, primero, porque es una infraestructura esencial y crítica, que estos recursos en un país, por ejemplo, tenemos esto que pasó últimamente con el tema de la energía en España, que nos quedamos sin electricidad, pues es un recurso natural. El hecho de que por ejemplo, que se contamine el agua, que haya incendios, pueden ser provocados, temas de terrorismo, o sea, lo que hay que hacer es cuidarnos activos naturales. ¿Por qué? Porque en realidad ha cambiado lo que es la figura de la guerra, estamos en situación de guerra híbrida, la desinformación, pero sobre todo que, por ejemplo, cuando decimos hay una guerra, los riesgos nucleares, radiológicos, bacteriológicos, químicos, pues aquí tenemos mucho que decir, ¿no? Porque se contamina el agua y ¿qué pasa? Un virus, un bicho, bueno, no voy a hablar aquí de cosas que puedan aterrorizar a la gente porque estamos para al revés, para custodiar, para proteger y sobre todo para saber que somos ricos en recursos naturales, pero tenemos que saber que existen para poderlos proteger mejor.
Muchas gracias. Iba a hacer el translate al inglés, pero me he perdido. Yo creo que es mejor. Es demasiado complicado, pero bueno, hay
pues,
traducción en el
sí,
webinar. No,
pues mira,
no
te digo una
preocupes.
frase para traducir. La responsabilidad de la seguridad nacional somos todos. Eso una. Y
The
luego,
responsibility of national security is for everyone.
y luego, los recursos naturales son seguridad nacional porque son nuestra defensa y son nuestros recursos. No tenemos que dejar que nadie nos los robe ni los explote. Un poco político, pero...
Natural resources are critical for national security.
¿Qué atacan? Atacan los recursos naturales que valen dinero y atacan los datos. Lo que vale dinero es lo que vale para las guerras, por desgracia.
Regarding security, I would like to add one relevant point. There is an official report from United Nations analyzing Iran war from a water perspective. For the first time in the history, water, a key natural resource, is a key element of analysis of a war. I didn't know that Iran has huge problems with water. So that's relevant. And I am not talking about Ukraine and mining, because I think that President Trump already explained it, how important is Ukraine for under a mining perspective. So, Luis, another question for you. For people who is not expert in maths, like us, try to explain how we can predict future of nature using mathematics.
I don't think anybody knows that. Okay. But let me tell you the way I think about it. It's a little bit different. I started my investment company, my first investment company in 1999. In 1999, I was talking to a lot of professional investors, very big, savvy, old investors who knew everything. They were making fun of two companies in 1999, a company called Google and a company called Amazon. Amazon was a book retailer. Will never be worth anything. Google, sheer entertainment. Who cares about a search engine? You know the result. I don't have to tell you, right? What they fail to understand is that these companies were extracting value from something that had no accounting basis at the time, called data. Investors had no clue. Even today, you still find occasional investors who don't understand the value of data, but we know that data is very valuable. I'll give you another example. This is very current. In Canada, we have a fantastic triangle owned by one family. They own a supermarket chain, they own the largest pharmacy in Canada, and a bank. Wonderful triangle. Why? Because the supermarket is your data gathering machine. By knowing whether you buy mangoes or milk, they will be able to give you the best mortgage. That's the business. And mathematics is helping us understanding all of that. So the same way that with mathematics, I can get your shopping habits and design the right mortgage for you, and I think you may relate to that. If I look at nature, and with mathematics, I can value it, I can make optimal decisions, because at the end of the day, everything we do, every minute of our lives is we make decisions. And we make decisions with data. Who here drove a car without a GPS? Who got lost in Rome without a GPS. Okay, it doesn't happen anymore, right? So this is what will change everything. We now have a GPS for almost everything we do. Even when you brush your teeth, your toothbrush now says your 2 minutes are up, right? So I think we're on the brink of something fantastic, wonderful. And when it comes to nature, which is the reason we're alive, okay, we value life, we value nature. Now we will be very, very well equipped to taking care of that.
Thank you, Luis. I have the last question for Adelina because we are running out of time. Very short, but very important. According with your experience working for investors, institutional investors, family offices, how important is accurate data for making the investment decisions?
Well, it's obviously core, but you know, if you want to make a metaphor, you cannot have like a tsunami of information, right? You need to have it properly properly organized, properly explained, properly structured in the way that the models work. We have, again, they will not come towards this, right? So that I doubt really that the investors will, unless there's really an economical and a cost push, will make an effort. But again, meeting midway whereby a tool of curated information that provides economical sense, models going forward the behavior. Yeah, just for example, 2025, Spain spent the insurance companies to cover the natural disaster cost. They spend more than 250 billion, and that's expected to increase 10% per annum. That is data. That is something that you can model. So you can have a data point, but where are you going to turn around and have these tools available to properly immediately integrate in your system? I can tell you there's not many places out there. Helena is going to be one of them, and that's why it's so wonderful what you're doing. But yeah, it is crucial. And when you turn around and you actually have that organized data, again, I come and I emphasize it has to be a trust environment. You need to prove the track record, the quality of the counterparties, because yeah, besides the data, we all know very well, there is also reputational risk, greenwashing. It's very easy to kind of hang your hat on that, do nothing, or even worse, do something, but don't even talk about it because you are afraid of the perception of the public. So yeah, data is fundamental, but everything that comes around it with how you bring it across, who brings it across, the behavior, the track record, how you integrate it in the model, that's also very important. And everybody has to understand that we all play a role in the supply chain. Of course, we can look at the investors, but also the rest of the supply chain has to come prepared for that conversation, right? So it is a bit of a two-way street there. So okay. You're doing a great job with the tools that you're sharing today.
Okay, perfect. So as a conclusion, I am asking you using a what-if scenario. What if is part of the business intelligence that Helena is doing. So imagine that you are a small Helena and you can do a what-if scenario, and the what-if is what if in your respective sector, in security, in financial analysis, in investments, you could have a total reliable, predictive tool for nature. Starting for you, Eva.
A ver, los datos son muy importantes y sobre todo la estrategia en seguridad nacional, en defensa y en cualquier ámbito. Pero en la parte de defensa y la parte militar muchas veces hay que ejecutar. Entonces, si estos datos son alterados, son contaminados y el tema de la predicción y el análisis y la observación no son rigurosos y estos espacios de datos, esto que compartimos, está manipulada o ha habido un ataque o es desinformación, pues tenemos un problema. Entonces, el análisis predictivo es fundamental, las auditorías son fundamentales y el seguimiento. Entonces, para poder proteger las cosas tenemos que tener el campo de exposición de proteger pues dominado, o por lo menos intentar que constantemente haya mejora continua. No vale la seguridad total, no existe. Siempre tenemos que tener pues, un grado de incertidumbre y hay que reducirlo.
Gracias. Luis.
I have too many things to say, but I'll say one thing. If I have to pick today, I don't know why, maybe because I'm hungry, agriculture. Imagine you could do precision agriculture, which is around the corner, by the way, okay? This is, I don't know how many of you have been farmers. No? You've been a farmer? Yeah, I did that when I was young. It was, no, I mean, the way you make decisions in farming is very suboptimal. If you could improve that, fantastic. And agriculture is a very big business for this country. It's an even bigger business for my other country, Canada. Precision agriculture, if I know that.
Adelina.
Because you mentioned the Googles and the Amazon earlier, just a bit of a reality check. These kind of companies plan for more than 100 years ahead. Not 1 year, not 3 years. So this is how their strategy works. And I want to put a bit my analytical psychology hat on. Imagine that you are a generation alpha, so that is someone ballpark lower than 20 years, and you want to invest for the long term. You still believe that the world is not going to, disappear. What would you invest in? How would you collect your data? Because you are technologically literate, you live in a fast-moving environment. Data is not only a question of quality, it's a question of abundant availability. What would I invest in to start my financial education, to build my wealth in the future, etc.? I always call it the metaphor of the invisible person in the room, yeah? Bring, for example, one invisible person that's not enough participating in this conversation is Generation Alpha. What do they think? How would they look at that? And listen to their voices and what do they need in order to make those decisions. So, thanks.
Okay, yes, very good metaphor. So thank you so much. It's a real privilege for a very small startup like NatureBrain. It's incredible just having this level of experts discussing for us about this really very relevant topic. So thank you.
I object to this small startup.